Well, howdy. It is May the 10th, and I thought I'd give you a quick update on the fruit orchard. It's been a little bit since I've been here, and things are progressing quickly. So I'll give you the walking tour here once. So this was a plum that we planted just in the spring. This is from Cummins Nursery. I think this is an AU Rosa. Looks pretty good. Needs a little pruning, a couple dead branches. Oh, no, sorry. I take that back. That one's a Methley. We planted 3 plums this spring. So Methley is a pollinizer for our older Bruce plums, and we've had 2 of these prior, and they've died back both times. So hopefully this one is a little better. But it was a very good quality tree when we got it, and seems to be doing pretty good. Moving down the row here, this one is St. Edmund's Pippin. This tree is just a couple years old. No blooms on it or fruit on it now. I think Dad actually said that we did have a couple apples, but they've fallen off. It's a young tree. Excuse me. Doesn't need them right now anyways, but maybe next year. It looks good. It's faring pretty well. Lots of good growth this spring, so excited to see that. And then its next door neighbor here is very similar. This is a golden russet, so that's an English tree. This is an American tree from the early 1800s. And this one actually does have a little bit of fruit on it. I debated on pulling these off, but Dad threatened to whip me. They don't necessarily need these apples this young. It's not great for the tree, but having a couple of them on there doesn't hurt. So excited about that one. That's supposed to be a really good tasting apple that I have never had. A little further down the line here, this is probably the best of the plum trees we got from Cummins. This is Bubblegum. Very vigorous growth on it. Probably is going to need some pruning because you see how the scaffolding branches have an upward growth habit and then are getting almost longer than the center leader. So we'll have to do some pruning on that, but what a great tree. Down here towards the beehives, a little bit disappointed. I don't know what's going on here. So this was a Dolgu crab apple that died back to the rootstock, and then we started grafting normal apples on it, and it has got some sort of fungal infection, and we're going to have to get some Immunox on it like right away. I was here a month ago and it did not look like this, so sad about that. But you can see the grafts have taken pretty well. That's a Hooples Antique Gold. We've got some other stuff over here. Of course, my tags are missing now. I think that's a red Astrakhan. Black gilliflower on there, and several others. But it's right next to the beehives, and they're pretty active. And of course, this year as I was grafting this tree, I got lit up by the bees on a particularly warm day. So unfortunate, but they're great pollinizers. This is the oldest tree in the orchard. This is a Gold Rush. Great apples. Love the flavor. They're super, super late. And this tree had just had so much woodpecker damage and problems that I cut it back a lot this year. I think it's going to survive. It looks okay. I need to get some of the water sprouts off the base of it, but it's got quite a few apples on it still. That branch makes no sense. That probably needs to be cut off up top there. But this is a good tree. I'm hopeful apple quality will be better this year. It's been a little bit of a biennial bearer, but not too bad. So just these section of trees here on this side of the driveway. And then as we come over, we've got essentially 4 more rows here. Williams Pride, this is just fantastic. I love this variety so much. Okay, so there are way too many apples in that cluster. They don't need to be like that. Usually we keep the king bloom and pick off the rest of them, but I've already been threatened once today about further thinning the apples. But Williams Pride's such a great apple. It's disease resistant. It's a great summer apple. The taste is good. It's got a beautiful dark purple color and sort of wash on it when it matures. I just love it. The only issue that we've had is that the birds also really like it, and it tends to get water core here in Oklahoma because it's so hot. But I just love that tree. I think this is the best tasting apple that we have in the orchard. And of course, not a single apple on it this year because, surprise, surprise, it's a Fuji. and it's a very strong tendency for biennial bearing. So this is Stark's Super Red Fuji. It was loaded last year. There's not an apple on it this year. The tree looks pretty good, like lots of healthy growth, dark green leaves, but no fruit on it. So we'll see you next year. Some older Bruce plums here. This one is looking pretty raggedy. It had a run-in with a cow, so hasn't quite recovered from that, and unfortunately that's been a theme for several of these trees, but it's still alive, so maybe next year we'll have some more fruit on it. Right over here is another Williams Pride. Again, great tree. Not much else to say about it. The apples on this one are just a little bit smaller, but it's nice to be able to pick an apple in the summertime and have it taste like something, unlike so many other summer apples. And then another Bruce plum here. This one actually has some ripe fruit on it. So here we go. This is literally the first fruit of the season, and I'm going to pick it. So Bruce plum has got a great flavor. It's supposed to be self-fertile, and it is sort of, but it really needs some help. And so we planted Methley for a couple of years, and they've just died back. So we didn't hold any bars this time. We ordered the AU Rosa and Methley and bubblegum plums as pollinizers. So next year, I'm hoping the fruit load on these will be a lot better. So, you ready for this? It's great flavor. It's the first fruit of the year, so not peak performance for this particular cultivar, but it's delicious. And it's nice to be able to walk out in your yard and eat a plum, right? So good. So switching back down this row here, as I continue to munch on my plum. Liberty Tree, this one is looking a little rough. Doesn't have a lot of leaf cover. It experienced the same mauling by the stray cows. But it's surviving. We had some really serious damage down low that I put some wound dressing on, and luckily I haven't had a lot of fungal infections as a result of that, but it's surviving. Liberty is a good apple. It's disease resistant. I think it's great for backyard growers. The flavor is not anything exceptional to me, but the disease resistance makes it worth planting. This is an Enterprise. I love this tree, but it suffered the same fate with the cows, and the damage on the main branch actually got to the point where we had severe fungal infections, and I had to cut the entire central leader and then put the wound dressing on it. So that was a little bit of a bummer. You can see that I got all these water sprouts now that all need to be pruned, but I think the tree is going to make it. So instead of having a prune to central leader, we'll now prune it to an open core where you have the vase shape. That'll help a lot of light get to these apples. So the fruit quality may actually improve. It's just that it does not have the traditional apple tree appearance. Everything else here, I pruned a central leader. But that's okay. It's all right to be different, right? This is the one I'm most excited about this year. This tree has been in the ground for, I think, 4 or 5 years now. This is Carmen de Sonneville. I've never eaten an apple off of it. It had the first single apple last year that it fell off. But as you can see, we've actually got some fruit now. I'm told Carmen de Sonneville is the highest sugar content and highest acid content of almost any apple variety. So I'm very hopeful that the flavor is good. So if we got a half dozen apples off that, I would be very, very excited. Moving on to our next row here. So this is a persimmon tree. It is labeled chocolate. I ordered this from Willis Nursery, and it's definitely not chocolate. I don't know what it is. It may be an American persimmon, but I picked one persimmon off of it last year, about the size of that little plum that I just picked. It definitely didn't seem like an Asian persimmon, and 100% was not the dark-fleshed chocolate cultivar. But, as you can see, I do have some blooms, and so hopefully we'll get some fruit off of it this year. I love persimmons. Persimmons are the most American of all the fruit trees. It's wonderful to see them glowing orange orbs in the fall. So this was a Fuyu, Asian persimmon. And what I have found is that people may say that many Asian persimmon varieties are successful in Zone 7A, and that might be true, but it is not true in Oklahoma. I've had so much dieback with persimmons. Fuyu, Izu, Ichikikai Jiro, I've lost all of them because of the winter temperatures plunging down below normal for this growing area. So this has died back to the rootstock. I assume it's an American persimmon rootstock. We're going to let it grow maybe another year, and then I'll do some grafting on it. But what do you do? You know, all of the persimmons that I planted this spring at the other orchard site were Gwangyang Korean persimmons, which I'm told is the most cold hardy of all the Asian persimmons. So fingers crossed that actually works. This is the AU Rosa plum from Cubbins. Again, hoping to pollinize those Bruce plums. So looks pretty good. No complaints there. This is a beautiful looking persimmon, actually. This is one of the few Izus that have survived, and I just love the waxy texture of the leaves, the dark green color, and it looks like a pretty healthy tree overall. Unlike the other persimmon over there that was loaded with blooms, which was erroneously marked chocolate, this one doesn't have any blooms on it, hardly. I don't even know if I've seen one. So, beautiful tree. Probably not going to expect any fruit off of that this year. And then the last row in this portion here, one more apple tree. This is a Arkansas Black. This was Mom's favorite apple tree, so it's special because of that. Absolutely beautiful apples from their dark purple to black. And the flavor is really good too. Like, I really enjoyed. We got one apple off this last year, and it was fantastic. So that one grows in memory of Mom, and glad to have it here. And then, of course, right over here, another Asian persimmon. I think this is an Izu, if I'm not crazy. My label is already faded. 99% sure that's an Izu. So, seems to be doing pretty good. We'll keep hoping. All right, and then over across the garden, we'll take a look at those fruit trees over the fence here. I won't make you look at the ground footage as I walk over. But, you know, growing an orchard is a little bit of a heartbreaking experience, because when it works, it's absolutely wonderful. Like, to be able to walk out in the fall and gather a bucket or basket of apples, it's magical, right? There's nothing better than that. But there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into that. From the pruning, the cultivation, to the fertilizing, to the application of fungicides and insecticides, to dealing with injury from livestock or southwest injury or webworms or whatever it is. Holy cow, there's a lot of work in it. So you have to just take the wins as they come, right? Here's a good, so this is a Red Haven peach, sort of like the standard cultivar for most peaches historically. And it was a big tree. It got pushed over by a cow as well. It is still alive, and it's probably going to have its first peaches this year, though I don't like that little mark there on that. But, you know, we do what we can. It's pushed over, but I'm hopeful we'll get the actual first peaches on it this year. So, doing okay. Peaches, I think, are even harder than apples. We're so prone to late frost. It seems like they get them every year. This was a Liberty tree. UPS or FedEx basically broke it in half during shipping. And I planted it over here thinking, I don't know if it'll ever survive. But I've been using it as a Franken tree and just grafting everything onto it. So what you see on the tree is a lot of Liberty apples, but it's got a lot of grafts. Old pearmain, if that survives, and it looks like it is, I'm so excited about that. This is an apple that is from 1200 AD. It is an 800-year-old apple, and that is just so cool. A piece of living history. And it's a clone, right? This is a clone of a tree that was growing 800 years ago. So that's incredible. I've also grafted a lot of heirloom Scottish varieties on here. So this graft is Lass of Gowrie, which is really cool. I got all these from Derek at Hocking Hills Orchard, and he has a mind-blowing list of scions that he sells. It's like Christmas time when I get to look through those. Here's another one that's marked Old Pearmain. That one is not leafed out, so we'll see if she makes it or not. This is Lass of Gowrie again. That's the main Liberty branch. There's some grass from last year as well. Fall wine and another fall wine here. Those appear to be doing okay. Actually, that fall wine there is exceptionally good. So excited about that. Never know what you're going to get. And then over here, a couple more peach trees. Wow, I'm impressed with this. So this is Indian Blood or Blood Cling. It's doing really well. Dark green foliage. It's got a few peaches on it. You can see we're going to have our first harvest. Very loud truck. Hello, loud truck. But probably get first harvest on this year. And what's cool about these is that the seeds grow true to type. So instead of having to have a rootstock and have it grafted on there, I can literally just save these peach seeds, replant them, and get essentially a very similar version of Indian Blood back. So excited about that. That's a cool tree. And then lastly, this is Monroe, which it was supposedly a good variety. I don't know a whole lot about it. This was also a Cummins tree, but being a bluegrass fan and loving Bill Monroe, how could you not pick that one out? So it's a great looking tree as well. We moved all the tomatoes this year. So the garden patch that you see here with our little weather station actually has giant pumpkins in it. So we'll see if we can grow some Atlantic giant pumpkins. Dad is keen on the county fair. And unfortunately, the wind damage has been terrible. That whole leaf right there is broken off, and we're getting some insects on there. So we'll see how that goes. But there's some cucumber beetles and stuff on there. Probably needs a good spray, but hopefully survives, and we'll get some big pumpkins. That's it for the May 2024 garden tour and orchard. So hope you're doing well, and fingers crossed, maybe we'll check back in October and look how everything's progressing. Thanks, and have a good one.